YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today, I'm giving you the sneakiest teams in the NFL from each division for the 2021 season. So, what does it mean to be a sneaky team? Teams that you're maybe sleeping on a little bit, teams that fans maybe view as a bad team could end up being a good team, sneaky team. Teams that could be viewed as a good team, but it could end up being a lot better than expected. Maybe teams that present problems on the field that teams really won't know how to game plan for. So we're going to break it down. I got one from each division, and at the end, I'll circle back and decide which team I'm labeling the sneakiest of them all. So this was a fun video idea. We got all kinds of videos like this, rankings, predictions, more. Follow our Twitter for constant NFL talk, updates, news. A lot of news this time of the year right now, more than usual too. So follow that, trying to reach 10K goal. Help us out there. We much appreciate it. Also appreciate if you like, subscribe. Can't wait for the NFL season. We'll have our usual content, loads of it, weekly picks, score predictions, power rankings, a lot more than just that as well. So join us. It'd be much appreciated. Here's our Twitter, link down below. Again, be huge for yourself and for us if you can give us a follow here. So the sneakiest teams, one for each division here. AFC East, I'm going to give it to the Jets. I'm going to give it to the New York Jets, probably the team that most people are predicting to finish last. AFC East is a good one because I can debate pretty much any team besides the Bills. Bills really aren't sneaky. We know they're very good. Everyone expects them to be very good. Thought about the Patriots because I expect the Patriots to be good. Some teams are still a little hesitant there, maybe because of their quarterback situation, but they could sneak up on the Bills because, the coaching, the game planning, how balanced that team is. Defense wasn't good last year, but they were missing a ton of guys. They got some of those guys back, and they added some on top of that through free agency in the draft. They go back to playing their offensive game with the tight ends, adding their guys. But I went with the Jets here because we're just so used to the Jets being a pretty bad team. But, they get a great defensive mind in Robert Saleh. I think Quentin Williams is going to be an absolute problem for teams. He's going to be an absolute monster. He's going to move around in different spots across that defensive line. Very versatile. We'll see that in that defense. So they're going to get pass rush. The defense can be better than what they look on paper. I mainly look at the offense to why they could be sneaky, though. They bring in Zach Wilson. Maybe you can't have crazy expectations for a rookie, but you kind of think they brought in this kind of 49ers staff. Is it going to be a similar scheme? I think we're going to see some similar concepts there, but I also think we're going to see a good amount of spread looks, which teams are just really not going to know how to game plan for some time here. They're going to line up with, several receivers on the field. They have a long list of receivers now that they've added. Free agency, look at Corey Davis, Keelan Cole. They drafted Elijah Moore. They got guys like Denzel Mims stepping up, Jamison Crowder. So they're going to roll Wilson out, and they're going to pass the ball a ton. They're going to get the ball to their running back in the passing game, Michael Carter as well. So that's mainly why they can be sneaky. It's really a tough game plan, and they can just be that explosive a passing attack and the offensive line is much improved. I forgot to add that as well. So you can't take the Jets lightly like teams probably have teams have been in the past here. I'm not saying they're going to have a crazy good season, but it's no free win anymore. Let me tell you that there. NFC East, love the Eagles for this video. Nobody's really predicting the Eagles to do well. NFC East has struggled where it's kind of been anyone's game. I definitely think it'll be a better division this year. A lot of people are expecting the Cowboys to be very good because they're healthier than they were last year. A lot of people are predicting the Washington football team to be good because they won a division last year, and that defense is scary. The offense should improve. Understandable. The Giants improved as well. They could be sneaky, but the Eagles, no one really thinking they're going to be good. Both sides of the ball struggled, in the recent past. Offense, Hurts seemed to be a game plan problem for some teams, so we'll see where that's at this year. The receiver unit's looking a lot better. They had Devontae Smith. Obviously, Rager could get better. Fulgham was just getting going. Look at the defensive side of things. Whole new scheme. I think they got players or already have players that really fit that scheme. Steven Nelson's not like this great corner or anything, but I think adding him was actually bigger than where you view his game, if that makes sense, because I think he's a tremendous fit, and that's kind of what they needed. They needed that one more piece to help Darius Slay possibly play better. Remember, they added Anthony Harris to play free safety. They add Eric Wilson, the linebacker unit. But that pass rush is absolutely nasty. Not just the starters across the whole defensive line, but the rotation as well is one of the best in football. And that pass rush can win games by itself. So Kind of waiting to see what Hurts can do. That's kind of the big deciding factor, maybe the new coaching staff as well. I wasn't really against Doug Peterson, wasn't one of those people, but the team does look better, and there kind of seems to be better fits for what they're trying to do, so that makes sense for the Eagles. AFC North, I'm going to go with the Bengals. It's hard for the Browns or the Ravens will be sneaky. I think everyone's projecting them to be pretty good about where I think they'll be. Steelers, their roster doesn't look nearly as good as it has, so I suppose they can be sneaky. That's a consistent team in terms of winning. I put the Bengals on here because Joe Burrow and his weapons. We talked about the Jets might give some spread looks. The Bengals most definitely will. We saw them use a load of receivers last year at the same time, on the field at the same time, and they're going to do that again. Joe Burrow was a top pick, a top prospect for a reason. This guy could be dangerous, especially with his Jamar Chase, with his Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins here, full-time here, and maybe they get Joe Mixon going as well. But this might be a passing attack that it's just extremely hard for teams to stop. The only thing that's stopping that is their offensive line, which I do think it's definitely towards the bottom of the NFL still, but it's much better. But Joe Burrow, it'd be a surprise if the Bengals end up being pretty damn good to some people, but the reason would be because Joe Burrow and that passing attack would be so good. Now think about that. Would that be that surprising if Joe Burrow and company was that good of a passing team? No, that's really not that much of a surprise. So if they're that good, in that category, they can be that good of a team. Some things I like and dislike about the defense, where they added, I like adding Mike Hilton. I thought they would go a little bigger in free agency, lost a couple good players, obviously. So before free agency, I was kind of predicting the Bengals could be even sneakier because I thought they would go a little bigger in free agency. They didn't really do that, but I like the way they drafted as well. And again, I do like some pieces they acquired there. And defensively, they could be sneaky as well because, they don't really have any standout units. I mean, Jesse Bates is my guy, but in terms of units to take over, really, not necessarily saying they're bad anywhere, but I think they're going to blitz a lot more than people think. I think they got a new plan. I think it's going to be tough for teams to probably game plan for early. So it's definitely something to watch out for. It could be a team that people are expecting to be dead last in the AFC North, but could be much better than what people are expecting. NFC North, another team that's projected at the bottom here. I'm going to go with the Lions. I thought about the Bears too because if Justin Fields plays, no matter who plays, I think they're going to kind of go with what was working at the end of last year, kind of like a West Coast style offense. They are going to pound the football and they're going to open up the play action bootleg plays, So, and I think that's working for some teams. Titans, Browns, it's been working. The Vikings offense got going, and it worked for the Bears late last year. So I think if Justin Fields is playing, that's even more dangerous because if he rolls out, you got to worry about him running. And they got they got some weapons. They loaded up that running back group, a couple receivers stepping up. So I really thought about the Bears, but the Lions they're so sneaky because everyone expects them to be maybe the worst team in football. And I think the mistake people, and they could be, they definitely could be the worst team in football. I'm not saying, they're for sure not going to be or anything like that. But I think what the mistake people make is they look, okay, they won 4 games with Stafford. They don't have Stafford anymore. They have Jared Goff. Everyone in the world's in agreement that Matt Stafford is better than Jared Goff. So kind of going back, they had 4 wins with Stafford. Now they got Goff. Oh no, they're not gonna be as good. They're gonna be 4 wins or less than 4 wins. I think people make that mistake. Not really how things work. Remember, what was around Stafford wasn't really working. I think what's around, I wish the receivers were better. Galladay's gone, but what's around Goff now compared to Stafford, I think as a whole, including the coaching staff, is a lot better than what Stafford had. I think coaching staff plays a big part as well. But the defense got a lot of good young players. Nobody really knows what style defense they're running. Patricia's scheme was awful. So defense could be pretty good if some guys develop. Right when he came in the league, a guy like Tracy Walker was outstanding. Haven't really seen that since. Can they get that back out of him? That's just one example of many here. Then you look on the offense. That running back group should be good. I think they're going to run the football a lot. They're going to get the ball to the running backs in the air as well. Quick game, and they could hit some daggers down the field. But you look at when Jared Goff succeeded, when he looked like he was going to be one of the, and we were kind of predicting, a lot of people, based on how he was playing, he could be one of the better quarterbacks in the future, and the Rams make a Super Bowl run. Goff was protected. He was able to throw, and the Rams offensive line hasn't really been that consistent since. The Lions built a pretty damn good offensive line. So, they could have him protected. Goff could actually play better. Maybe he doesn't have the receiver weapons he did in LA, so we'll see. But maybe they can make some noise here in the NFC North. Next, from the AFC South, I'm going to go the Colts. Pretty much everyone projects the Colts to be a good team here. I think they could be sneaky good in a way, because I think people look, they got Carson Wentz. That's kind of the thing. It's hard to believe fully in Carson Wentz because, he really struggled last year. I think most people are predicting him to play better than he did last year, but how much? But I will look at this team, and I think they're going to run the crap out of the ball. Another one of those teams, they're going to pound the football no matter what running backs back there. They got a committee over there. They got a good group of guys. And I think that's going to open up some play-action pass for Carson Wentz. It's going to, force teams to stack the box. Can they protect the blitz? That's kind of the question there, and they have in the past. We'll see if they can. That's kind of the question. But I think it kind of can open up some layup throws for Carson Wentz, and he can play a lot better because the task, responsibilities is a lot easier. And it's really going to be how they start. If they start okay, that's actually a good sign, because I think they can really get rolling as the season goes on. And teams really got a game plan for the run. But if Wentz can kind of hit those, roll out on the run, deep balls that he used to that were top of the NFL, then this could be a scary team. They have that run power, and they have that dagger. We know the defense is pretty complete as well. So it's a team that really it's more of one of those teams that we know is pretty good, but they could be better than we're expecting, but they can heat up and be sneaky kind of in crunch time late in the season. So that's why I went with the Colts there. Moving on to the NFC South, I'm going to go with the Falcons. I like this team as a sneaky team, and people think because they added a new coaching staff. They added Arthur Smith. He's going to simplify things for Matt Ryan. That's great. They're going to run the football a little more. Should be more effective because of the scheme. That's great. They got Kyle Pitts, who's a sneaky type player, can play in a line different spots. That's great. I look at the defense. I actually look at the defense, though, because based off the past, kind of what will most people say on the reason the Falcons came up short? Mainly because the defense. People say the offense produced enough, mainly because the defense. But the defense down in the second half of the season, they had kind of some cold moments still. It wasn't completely consistent, but down the second half of the season, they had some damn good performances in games. They had some Raiders game. They played Patrick Mahomes pretty well. They couldn't put a complete game together against the Bucs. They had to play the Bucs twice late, which was brutal. But there was moments throughout those games, halves, quarters, that were lights out. And that's what some young players, it's really not even a polished roster yet. They had some injuries on top of that, and they bring in a really good coaching staff on both sides, offense and defense. So this defense, no one's really expecting them to be that great. And they're not going to be great, but they could be sneaky good. And then it's just the offense, keeps on playing. At the same time, those games that the Falcons lost where their defense was playing good, I thought Matt Ryan was very inconsistent, was holding the ball too long, couldn't escape, was throwing to the wrong team. Chargers game kind of blew that one, if you remember late in the game. But I think, Arthur Smith's kind of making things simple for Matt Ryan, I think helps in that category. So it could be more of a balanced team than what people are expecting there. Also, last year, I thought they had the hardest schedule in football. That was kind of my take before the year. I thought that was the case. Could have played the Saints twice. They had to play the Bucs twice down stretch of the season when they were kind of getting really good. So the Chiefs were in there. You guys get the point. So yeah, they could be sneaky this year. AFC West, I'm gonna go with the Chargers. Chargers I expect to be a pretty good team. It's also one of those rangy teams where you kind of can see them being. We think they could be good, but they can be almost surprisingly good, where they're way better expected, or you kind of can see them struggling a little bit. New coaching staff, maybe a sophomore slump here and there for Herbert. I don't really think so, but possible. So it's kind of a pretty big range, but I'm starting to like this team a little more. I think they could be very dangerous. The ability to kind of stretch the defense, stretch the field there. They got a longer list of group of running backs they can pound the football with. They can get the ball to Eckler. I think Eckler is kind of the X factor here because, well, you could argue it's kind of anybody. The receivers they have, it's Herbert, because they're going to stretch defenses big time. With their receivers, with their deep ball mentality, Herbert's deep ball mentality, where they improve the offensive line. But then Eckler comes into play kind of in the passing game. Teams will see it's a pass. We got to get back because they love the deep ball. kind of can get that slip screen, that flat game going for Eckler, and he really can hit that home run. So I think that's something to watch out for. It's kind of a game plan problem for teams because do we worry about the deep? What about the underneath stuff? And Herbert can take off as well. So I think it's a problem. Staley coaching this defense, I think it's perfect. I think they have an X factor on defense, and that's Kenneth Murray too, because I think they could kind of use him all over the place a little bit. His blitzing game could be a factor. But yeah, teams aren't. We were used to kind of the same Chargers defense, which was good, but same thing over and over. It's definitely looking different here. So hopefully guys like Derwin James can stay healthy. We see Bosa every game. That'd be fantastic. So yeah, they could be pretty sneaky. They could be sneaky good, like really sneaky good. It's a possibility here for those reasons. And then the NFC West, I'm going to go with the Seahawks. A team that people, like, they got to be good. They're consistently good. They have some star players on their team. But the reason I have them on here, I think a lot of people think everybody in the NFC West would be good, but the reason I have the Seahawks is because offensively, it almost feels like they could run with a different system. Because they kind of had that whole system, that same system for a long time. It was, even though they had Russell Wilson, it was kind of run the ball first. And I liked it, It was run the ball first, wear the defense down. We want a tight game. If we're up big, it's great. But if we almost want a tight game at halftime, and then we kind of unleash Russell Wilson, and then it's game over. So I did like that. Sometimes what I didn't like was a little too conservative. They stuck that to the kind of like the handbook that they had. A little too much. And then early last year, they tried to kind of go more of a passing first team, passing attack, and it was working pretty well. But then they kind of felt like they had to go back. But, where I think they're heading, using more receivers, changing the system up a little more, kind of playing like the way they played early last year, I think that throws teams off. So that's why they're sneaky on offense. You don't really know what to expect. It could be changed for the better. Defensively, though, it's not a good defense on paper. It's really not. They're lacking pass rush. They're lacking in the secondary in terms of coverage. Corner group looks pretty rough. So that you would automatically assume this team might struggle, but I think they got some tricks up their sleeve. I think they're going to blitz a lot more than off. I think they got a real good plan for Jamal Adams. Again, Bobby Wagner, I think, will blitz. But kind of going back to the pass rush, they may have some sneaky guys, like second-year guys like Darrell Taylor, who I liked out of Tennessee, Alton Robinson. Carlos Dunlap was picking it up at the end of last year as well. He's a veteran, obviously. So they could be, I'm not expecting a lot from this defense, but they could be sneaky because they may have some tricks. They may have a little bit different looks than what we're normally seeing, and that goes for both sides of the ball. So that's why they can be sneaky here. But I actually chose a team that I think is the sneakiest of them all, and it's a team we talked about, of course. I think that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'm not saying this is the best team of the bunch. Somehow somebody will take it that way. They're not the best team from this video. This doesn't mean I'm predicting them to be great. I just think they're a sneaky team, mainly because nobody's really scared of the Eagles right now. No one's talking about them a lot. Earlier in the video, I talked about why they're on this list, but the topper, I think, is, what wins big games, what could make a team a great team. Quarterback play, offensive line play, and pass rush. We talked about the pass rush. They have one of the best units. If we look at depth, they might have the best in football. The rotation's ridiculous. And I'm talking interior. I'm talking off the edge. They improved their defense. They got fits, but kind of focusing on the pass rush, which is one of the biggest things in football. That's a check. Big time check mark. Offensive line is actually a very solid offensive line. It just got to stay healthy. If it's healthy, it's a very solid offensive line. So on paper, that's a check, and that leaves us to Jalen Hurts. So it's on the health of the offensive line, but Jalen Hurts as well, who could be kind of a game plan problem. He was a game plan problem. I thought that's why he kind of played better earlier when he came in than later. Teams started to figure him out. So how will it be this year? But at the same time, he was kind of ahead of schedule to me. I thought he's a guy that needed to calm down. He's kind of like a spaz in the pocket, wanted to get out too early. And I felt like he eliminated those bad things already. So Eagles could be sneaky because it's a question mark if they have the big three, but the fact that they're right there and they potentially could have those big three game-changing things is pretty crazy. And you kind of factor in the load of running backs they have now. They have a long list of receivers. I think Devontae Smith could be to have a Justin Jefferson type impact. Expecting that many yards may be too high of expectations, but it's possible. And again, they added around the defense, and I thought they added really good fits And I think it's going to make other players that they already had better around them. So, and again, that doesn't mean I think they're going to be great. They'll probably slip up offensively some weeks, and their defense will probably put them in positions to win. Will win games on themselves, but maybe the defense plays a great game and they still come up short, and that's okay because it's somewhat of a rebuild somewhere in not the stage one, but somewhere in there. They got an extra pick throughout the draft as well for trading back, I should say. So they could be actually heading in the right direction. It really felt like a messy situation, but it's nowhere near as messy as it was. Just the teams with that good of pass rush just never are bad, really. So that's kind of the main thing there. So, but offense line stay healthy. Hurts doesn't have to play out of his mind. You got to ball out a little bit, and it's possible. So it's a team to watch out for. I guess it depends on how the NFC East does as well, because if they play if all the teams play like they did last year, it's anybody's game. I don't really think it will. I think all 4 teams will be better than they were last year, actually, which is crazy. But I think all 4 teams, at least they look like they're better. So we will see. Can't wait for the season. Can't wait to see how everything unfolds here. Training camp's going on now. We got you covered on our Twitter and right here on the channel. So follow that Twitter, subscribe on the channel. It'd be much, much appreciated. In the comments, let me know your sneakiest teams. If you got 1, if you got 8, whatever it may be, tell me why they're sneaky. Love to see that. We'll also have that conversation on Twitter as well. So yeah, check it out. That's going to do it for this one though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.